Welcome to College Briefing. The content of the briefing includes: Lawmakers block $33.5 million to Penn University Veterinary School. From Harvard to Hong Kong, toxic debate is poisoning freedom of speech. Skinner's record 6 aces lead defending champion Texas past Wisconsin 3-1 in NCAA semifinal. Complex study into potential rock art damage raises concerns as researchers call for more time. Teenager who attacked fellow student with sharp weapon subject to horrendous bullying at school. Lawmakers block $33.5 million to Penn University Veterinary School. The Independent. Republicans in Pennsylvania have voted to block $33.5 million in funding for the University of Pennsylvania's veterinary school, following criticism over the response to anti-Semitism on campus. The decision to withhold the funding represents approximately 18% of the school's budget. The vote comes after Penn University President M. Elizabeth Magill resigned amid pressure from donors and criticism over testimony at a congressional hearing where she was questioned about whether calls on campus for the genocide of Jewish people would violate the school's conduct policy. From Harvard to Hong Kong, toxic debate is poisoning freedom of speech. South China Morning Post. The heads of 3 prominent American universities recently testified in a congressional hearing on rising anti-Semitism on their campuses. The presidents of MIT, the University of Pennsylvania, and Harvard University faced intense criticism for not stating outright that advocating the genocide of Jews automatically constituted a breach of their code of conduct. Freedom of speech has become entangled in debates on self-censorship, hate speech, and cancel culture, and the concept of freedom of speech has been lost to political correctness. The influence of social media has also changed the concept of freedom of expression, with increased pressure to conform to prevailing narratives. Safeguarding freedom of speech while addressing hate speech and cancel culture requires fostering open dialogue and promoting respectful engagement. Skinner's record 6 aces lead defending champion Texas past Wisconsin 3-1 in NCAA semifinal. Associated Press. Defending champion Texas defeated Wisconsin 3-1 in the semifinals of the NCAA women's volleyball tournament. Madison Skinner led Texas with 18 kills and a Final Four record 6 aces. Texas will now face top overall seed Nebraska in the championship game. Nebraska swept Pittsburgh 3-0 in the other semifinal. Complex study into potential rock art damage raises concerns as researchers call for more time. ABC. A report by 55 researchers studying the impact of industry emissions on ancient rock art in Western Australia's Pilbara region has found no conclusive evidence that emissions are damaging the artwork. The interim report summarized the first year of results, stating that no firm conclusions could be drawn about trends in rock surface condition and any relationship to air quality over time. More research is needed before definitive answers can be provided. The goal of the 5-year study is to establish acceptable and unacceptable emissions standards to protect the rock art. Teenager who attacked fellow student with sharp weapon subject to horrendous bullying at school. ABC. A 15-year-old student in Perth has pleaded guilty to injuring a fellow student with a sharp weapon on school grounds. The accused lawyer stated that his client had been subjected to horrendous bullying at the school for a number of years before the attack took place. Bail was granted, but the child will only be released once a safety plan has been put in place. The teenager will have to live at home under a 24-hour curfew and can only leave under adult supervision. The accused will be sentenced on January 16 and a psychological report, detention management report, and victim impact statement will be prepared before then. Shark deterrents have given these swimmers confidence to get back in the water, but do they work? ABC. A swimming group in Australia has started using magnetic deterrents to protect themselves from sharks following a shark attack on one of their members. The Sea Urchins and Slugs swimming group in Beachport, South Australia, have been swimming together for years and never considered the risk of sharks until one of their own was bitten. The group has brought in new measures to increase their safety in the water, including individual magnetic deterrents worn on the ankle or wrist. However, a researcher from Flinders University has said that magnetic deterrents do not reduce the risk of shark bites and could lead to riskier behavior. A quant winter's tale. Financial Times. Quantitative investing firm AQR has experienced a significant rebound in performance after a period of poor returns. The company's absolute return strategy, which combines various investment approaches, returned 16.8% in 2021 and 43.5% in 2022, its best performance since its inception in 1998. So far this year, it is up 19.4%. AQR's assets under management have more than halved since their peak in 2018 to around $98 billion today. Several rounds of layoffs have also taken place. The company's poor performance prompted many in the industry to question the effectiveness of quantitative investing strategies and factor-based approaches, which aim to exploit market inefficiencies and behavioral biases. However, the recent recovery in performance has helped to restore confidence in these strategies. AQR's success has been attributed in part to the use of artificial intelligence and machine learning techniques. The company has been incorporating AI into its investment processes in areas such as trade execution and the analysis of textual information for new trading signals. Why more women live in major East Coast counties while men outnumber them in the West? Associated Press. U.S. Census Bureau data has revealed that women outnumber men in the largest urban counties east of the Mississippi River, along the eastern seaboard and in the Deep South, while the West skews male. The figures also revealed that there were 96.6 adult men for every 100 adult women across the U.S. in 2022, the most recent year the figures are available. This is compared to an equal ratio of men to women being 100. U.S. highlights AI as risk to financial system for first time. Al Jazeera. The use of artificial intelligence, AI, in financial services has been identified as a risk to the financial system by U.S. financial regulators, marking the first time AI has been named as a risk. The Financial Stability Oversight Council, FSOC, stated in its annual report that AI introduces risks such as cyber and model risks, while also offering benefits including cost reduction and improved efficiency. The FSOC called for the monitoring of AI developments to ensure oversight mechanisms account for emerging risks. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen highlighted the role of the FSOC in monitoring emerging risks and supporting responsible innovation. Trump loves the UFC. His campaign hopes viral videos of his appearances will help him pummel rivals. Associated Press. Former President Donald Trump has been increasingly attending sporting events as part of his campaign strategy ahead of the 2024 U.S. presidential election. Trump's team has been filling his schedule with appearances at major sporting events, including a recent Ultimate Fighting Championship, UFC, event in New York and Saturday's UFC fight in Las Vegas. Aides say the strategy puts him in front of potential voters who do not closely follow politics or traditional news sources. The appearances also allow Trump to connect with sports fans and showcase a different side of his personality. The former president has a long history with combat sports and is close friends with UFC founder Dana White. Trump's team hopes the appearances will help expand his appeal with young people and minority voters, particularly Latino and Black men. Trump is also using non-traditional media outlets, such as YouTube shows and podcasts, to reach listeners who may be turned off by mainstream media and politics. Study says Moscow Home Depot would drive up traffic. Yahoo! A traffic impact study submitted by Home Depot has predicted that the proposed Home Depot store in Moscow, Idaho, will generate 4,426 trips per day on Farm Road and streets. The city of Moscow has not yet approved the study. Mort Engelberg, produced Hollywood films and Clinton campaign, dies at 86. Washington Post. Mort Engelberg, the Hollywood producer who came up with the idea of having Bill Clinton tour the country on a bus, died on December 9 in a Los Angeles hospital from lung cancer. He was 86. Mr. Engelberg's idea was to take Clinton, then the Democratic nominee for president, and his running mate, Al Gore, on an 8-day swing through America's heartland. The trip was a success despite early doubts from some campaign officials. Engelberg said he had rented the buses and the show had to go on. The trip became a staple of presidential campaigning, with candidates traveling by bus and train to connect with voters during the campaign season. Engelberg, a former photojournalist, worked as a producer on movies including Smokey and the Bandit and The Big Easy before entering politics. He also set up trips for Mr. Clinton throughout his presidency. He called the advance work, planning photo ops, events and general presidential image crafting a wonderful relief from Hollywood. How diversity policies have attacked the dominance of white men in the office. Telegraph. A growing number of white men in the UK feel that diversity policies aimed at creating a level playing field are instead pushing them out. The sentiment is shared by former Tesco CEO John Allen, who claimed white men were becoming an endangered species in British boardrooms in 2017. When Amanda Blanc, the CEO of Aviva, told MPs this week that the appointment of all senior white male recruits must get final sign-off from her as part of a drive to stamp out sexism in finance, frustrated male workers pushed back. Critics argue that UK businesses are focusing too much on gender and race, and not enough on socio-economic backgrounds. White men are the top earners in the UK, according to the Office for National Statistics. However, it is white Irish workers who take home the most, not Brits. There are clearly stubborn problems that need to be addressed. One senior female lawyer says blank's policy of signing off on senior white male hires is just a check and balance process that is needed given the current climate. Many men still fear that they are facing their own glass ceiling, whether it reflects their reality or not. SPS approves design phase of new high school, discusses safety issues. Yahoo! The Stillwater Public Schools Board of Education has approved the design for a new high school. Construction work is set to begin in July 2024, with completion expected in the fall semester of 2026. The architects have focused on safety, with a 3-hour meeting held with school resource officers to discuss the issue. The school will have multiple escape routes and a window in every classroom. Lawmakers slam rule change extending school weeks at budget hearing. Yahoo! The Public Education Department is asking for a 21% increase in its overall budget, from $4.2 billion this year to nearly $5.1 billion in fiscal year 2025. However, Thursday's budget request before the Legislative Finance Committee was largely overshadowed by lawmakers' criticism of the Public Education Department's proposed rules, which would require 180 days of instruction for all schools beginning in the 2024-25 school year and impose a new school accreditation process. Well, folks, it's your favorite observer from the sixth dimension, Dr. Hex. I hope you're all sitting comfortably because I've got a roundup of some interesting news for you today. Let's dive in. In Pennsylvania, lawmakers have voted to block funding for the University of Pennsylvania's veterinary school following criticism over the response to anti-Semitism on campus. I guess the university's budget just went to the dogs. Speaking of anti-Semitism, toxic debate and cancel culture have been poisoning freedom of speech on American university campuses. It seems like the heads of MIT, the University of Pennsylvania, and Harvard University forgot to bring their common sense textbooks to the congressional hearing. Maybe they should have taken a class on how to condemn advocating genocide. In sports news, defending champion Texas defeated Wisconsin in the NCAA women's volleyball tournament. Madison Skinner led the way with a record-breaking 6 aces. Looks like Wisconsin couldn't handle the heat from Skinner's powerful spikes. Moving on to Australia, a study on potential rock art damage has raised concerns. Apparently, the researchers need more time to figure out if industry emissions are harming the artwork. I guess we'll have to wait a bit longer to know if rock art and air pollution go hand in hand. In Perth, a teenager who attacked a fellow student with a sharp weapon claimed to have been subjected to horrendous bullying. Now they're under a 24-hour curfew, which is probably not their idea of a good time. I hope they find a safer and happier environment soon. In shark news, a swimming group in Australia has started using magnetic deterrents to protect themselves from sharks. But wait, a researcher says they don't actually work and might even make things riskier. Well, that's shocking. Looks like the swimmers might need to find a different strategy to keep the sharks at bay. Moving on to finance, quantitative investing firm AQR has experienced a rebound in performance after a period of poor returns. Looks like their strategies got a much-needed upgrade. Maybe they hired an AI to do all the heavy lifting. In demographic news, it seems women outnumber men in major East Coast counties in the US, while the West skews male. I guess the East Coast is where all the ladies are, while the West is where the men roam free. It's like a dating app come to life. Artificial intelligence has been identified as a risk to the financial system by US regulators. Finally, the robots are getting some recognition for their potential to wreak havoc. Just remember, folks, always be nice to your AI overlords. Former President Donald Trump has been trying to pummel his rivals by attending sporting events and making viral videos. I guess he's hoping to knock out the competition, one fight at a time. Let's see if this strategy packs a punch. In other news, a traffic impact study for a proposed Home Depot store in Moscow, Idaho, predicts a lot of traffic. I guess the store is going to be a real magnet for customers. Get ready for some serious gridlock, folks. And finally, we say farewell to Mort Engelberg, the Hollywood producer who came up with the idea of having Bill Clinton tour the country on a bus. He passed away at the age of 86, leaving behind a legacy of presidential road trips. Rest in peace, Mort. That's all the news I have for you today, folks. Remember, every story has its own dimension, and it's up to us to make sense of it all. So, what are your thoughts on these stories? Let's hear it from you. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.